Some of y'all have asked about my setup, my guitar setup, how I plug in and stuff. Now, my favorite way to hear this guitar is acoustically. It's a really fantastic D-18 Golden Era that is my main workhorse tool, but I do have to plug it in. I started plugging it in because I played into a microphone for years, but I started plugging in because my band couldn't hear me. I couldn't be loud enough in the monitors that they could hear my guitar, which is kind of the heartbeat of the whole band. So I started plugging in, but I'm very particular, and that's why I hadn't used a pickup up to that point, because I hate the way they sound. Piezo pickups especially have a very quacky kind of sound to them. I have a K&K, which has a little more warmth to it, a little more naturalness. Still not perfect. But let's start right at the beginning of my chain. I have a Shure wireless receiver, and I have a transmitter on the back on my belt, just to trust me on that one. And so I go into the wireless receiver here, which is also one of the best tuners I've ever used. It's really fantastic. This is Shure GLX something or other. So that's going through my amp over here. Now that's going through the wireless transmitter, which has a lot of options. I can turn things up or down depending on how much gain I need. I can use different, I can change channels if something's not working right. Now from there, I go from there into this. This is a Martin EQ. It's a very good 3-band parametric, which means you can choose the frequency of each of those 3 bands and scroll them up and down. So without it, it's very muddy. But with it, a lot cleaner. Fuzz in there somewhere. I don't know where that is. Probably my amp. So from here, from the Carl Martin, I go into the Fishman Aura, which is this really interesting direct box that actually they created models by miking different guitars, and I found a guitar that sounded the closest to my own D-18 Golden Era guitar. And that's what I've got here. So if I have none of this, I'm going to just turn the blend all the way down, and all you hear is my pickup. It sounds okay. It's a little quackier. And with that, I'm going to add a little bit of blend in there. A little more harmonic tone. I'm going to add a bunch of blend in there. How about that? Here it's like starting to feed back a little bit almost. Much more wooden, much more microphonic. So I usually have it somewhere in between those places. Get a little bit of depth out of it. Now from here, from the Aura, I go into this. This is a TC Electronics flashback pedal. Whoa, what happened to my guitar? So dry. So I just add a little slap. It adds the room in there. I'm going to turn it way up so you can hear it. I can make it echo a bunch of times, but generally I like to have it turned kind of down, where it just adds a little bit of ambiance to the room. I think guitars that are run direct especially tend to be very dry and in your face, and I like a little bit of ambience. So after the flashback, I go into this brand new thing over here, which is, and it adds an octave underneath my guitar at a certain range. This is the Boss Super Octave OC3. and it adds an octave underneath you only on the lower strings, and you can set the range of this so that it doesn't make your whole guitar play in octaves, which sounds really big and heavy and clunky, but only the bottom 1 or 2 notes get translated down an octave, and it's the only pedal I've found that does that. So if I add it, and you're not going to hear this either, if you're listening on your phone or your computer speakers, you're probably not going to hear this, but if you're listening on headphones or more of a speaker, like a stereo system, you'll hear this lower sound here. So I'm going to play a little bit. All right, let me turn it off. You can hear without it. Sounds like a guitar. As I go up higher, it's not octaving, it's not creating that octave anymore, only on the lower notes. Transmitter's cutting out a little bit. There's some artifacts here for sure. So that's an octave pedal. I only use every now and then. I really prefer a more natural sound, but sometimes we don't play with a bass player. We play with a drummer. And sometimes it's enough just to have the kick drum filling in the bass and a little bit of low end on my guitar. And sometimes I want a little bit more, and I'll add that for kind of a low pedal tone that sort of fills things out. And the last step here is this beautiful thing. This is called a red eye, and they're handmade in Austin, Texas, which is where I found this. I walked into South Austin Music, and I lined up a bunch of volume pedals because I knew if I was going to plug in, I couldn't move closer to the mic and further away in order to get louder anymore when I play a solo. I had to have some other way to turn myself up and down. So what I got, I tried out all these volume pedals. They all changed my tone. They all did weird stuff to the sound of my guitar, except for this, which has a noiseless switch. There's no pop in the line when you hit it, and it adds a really beautiful transparent amount of volume. So when I'm playing a lead, gives me some volume there. Playing a rhythm like I can make myself stand out a little bit more. Or if I'm finger picking too, I'll use it. So that gives me a little bit of extra juice when I'm finger picking and playing very soft notes. It really brings them up to the foreground a little bit. Another thing that's happening on this Aura, this Fishman Aura, it has just a touch of compression on it. And what a compressor does, for those of you who don't know, it's like an automatic volume control. And I've got just a touch of it on there, so at the very loudest, when I hit my guitar really hard, this actually automatically just turns me down just for a second, that loud part. And the overall effect is that you bring the quieter things up just a little bit. So when I'm playing on stage with an electric guitar player and a drummer, I get just a little bit more of myself. I can hear the quieter things that I'm doing on the guitar, and everybody else can too. It also produces feedback, and that's where this other thing comes in. The last little bit on the Aura is this anti-feedback button. This thing is worth the price of the pedal alone, just by itself. It's incredible. So I'm going to jack my volume up, and I'm going to show you what this does. Wait, not there. I'll jack it up. So it found, let me try it again. You hold it in for 2 seconds and then it starts looking for frequencies. it goes up to 3 frequencies. And now it has cut out that feedback. It's enabled me to turn my guitar up before feedback. It made a little bit of change to my tone, but not that much. The frequencies that it cuts out are very steep. And then when I hit my boost pedal and I play leads, I'm not feeding back on stage all the time because I'm playing an acoustic instrument. So that feedback stopper has been super important to being able to use a little bit of compression and to get a little bit more volume on stage so everybody can hear what I'm playing and they can play to me. And since I run that kind of band where I'm the band leader and people are reacting to what I'm doing, that's very important. So that's it. That's my whole thing. In through the receiver here, which is also my tuner, Carl Martin EQ, I can dial in my tone to sound really nice. The Aura gives me a little bit more tone, a little bit of a microphonic tone to make it sound natural and wooden like a regular acoustic guitar, and a little bit of compression. I've also got a phase switch on here. The tuner is terrible. The tuner is the worst thing about this pedal. I don't even use it. I use this one. From there to the flashback to give myself a little bit of ambiance, a little bit of room sound. And then over here to the octave pedal for every now and then a deep octave underneath what I'm doing to sort of not really replace the bass player, but just to give us a little ground level foundation shake in there, a little bit of rock and roll. And then back into the red eye boost to boost myself for leads and finger picking, and that's it. I can mute myself, I can turn myself up and down. Once a sound person dials in my sound, they really don't have to do much for the whole night. And that's it. If you have any questions, just put them in the comments and I'll try to answer them. All right. Thanks, y'all.